I had a friend that bought an airplane many years ago. And so I got all into like just reading about airplanes. And it was fine. It was funny how the aviation industry translated into some other part of your life. Yes. And then you're like going, wait a minute, you know what they did to solve this problem over here? I wonder if it would, something similar would fit in this problem that I have right now, right? And it was it's just putting those disparate ideas together to form new thoughts I don't know, that I get the biggest kick out of that,
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Rob Mathis podcast. Today, I'm here with Brian Strong, CEO of TenHats, based here in Knoxville. Thank you so much for being here, Brian.
Well, thank you.
So tell me a little bit about, we've had the opportunity to talk just a few minutes before we got started filming here, but tell me a little bit about TenHats and what is the whole business centered around?
Yeah, so TenHats is basically, it's an IT firm here locally. Mm-hmm. So the TenHats is actually emblematic of IT, right? So there's multiple different functions of IT. And, we can help companies with all 10 of them. So if you're a small business and have the CFO, IT rolls up to the CFO, we can take all the IT hats. Or if you're a large enterprise and you don't have specialists, or you have specialists in six of the 10, we can help you with the other 4. So it's just one of those things that we do to serve both large and small businesses here in the community.
That's really cool. How long has TenHats been around?
So the company's been around since about 2016 under different names. We actually rebranded it last year in 2021 to TenHats or 22. So we're going into our second year as TenHats.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. Have you always kind of been interested in IT space, or did it just kind of happen that way, or? Yeah,
so it's interesting. So my path was all over the place. So I mean, I went to Farragut High School here locally, and I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. Mm-hmm. One thing that was fortunate about going to Farragut is a lot of my friends' fathers were business owners, right? And so I asked them, for advice if I'm going to be an entrepreneur. As I grow older, what should I do? And one of them gave me advice. They're like, hey, the big thing is you always have to make revenue for your company. If you can make revenue,
yes,
you can survive, right?
Yep.
And so he was like, if you can learn how to sell, your company will survive. So went to UT, and then when I got out of UT, I started selling. My first job was I sold railroad materials.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of funny from going from one of the oldest industries, right, into IT being one of the newest. And so I've always had a kind of mechanical mind, and I kind of floundered through my 20s until there was a IT company here a long time ago. It was called RM Technologies. They recruited me to come. And it was in the IT space, and I was like, well, I don't know anything really about IT. And they're like, well, we'll train you. And so that's kind of that's how I ended up in the IT space. And I just really fell in love with it. I don't know. It just, IT makes sense to me. It just how it's really there's a lot of moving parts, so it's really complicated. And I don't know. I like it. It's fascinating to me. There's always something to learn. It's an IT, they say a generation's every 3 years. So you're always having to stay up to date, and just kind of, it's always moving. And, that company RM Technologies went on to be Claris Networks, which became one of the largest MSPs in the country. I kind of hit my top, I guess, about 6.5 years into it. Sold a big account. I was right around 35 at the time. I think that 34. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm ready to start my own thing. And then that's when I really started hunting for something different to do, to kind of spread your wings and try this entrepreneurial thing.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. I mean, I think that's great advice that you got, because thankfully we've been blessed to where now we've had successful, we've been successful in the entrepreneurial space. So I can 100% say that is something that I tell people is like, some people come to me with business ideas and they're like, I want to do this. It's like, where does the money come in?
That's right.
Where are you making money?
That's right.
I mean, because, and I was talking with one of our other clients, they're talking about some of these bigger organizations and things like that. And they're like, well, how do they go with years without profit or without even revenue or whatever? And it's like, there's kind of two sections of entrepreneurism. There's like the funding kind, and there's like the real, I hate to say real, but there's the boots on the ground entrepreneurs.
That's right.
And it's like, you have your funding where, you just raise capital, and then, eventually you'll turn a profit or start making money.
That's right.
And then you have the boots on the ground where it's like, if you don't have revenue coming in, you're not paying your bills.
That's right.
You're not a business.
Yep.
And I think that's great advice because, if you can look at, all right, this is our core service. This is what we provide.
Right.
Let's backward and then from there, how do we make money doing this? And then ultimately realizing like business is about making money and you've got to be making more than you're spending to run this money machine. Right. And,
that's right.
And I think that's such a great piece of advice because shoot, for me as a young entrepreneur, I remember like when we first started, we signed a couple of big contracts. Big. Now they would be smaller contracts, but
right.
Big money at the time.
Absolutely. Right.
Just starting a business. And I remember I was like, we're going to get a big office. We're going to hire a bunch of people, blah, blah, blah. Because I thought the business were those things, the office, the employees.
True.
And it's like, the business is the revenue.
That's right.
And then everything else is in support of that revenue.
That's right.
And then so from there, it like shifted my thinking, and that was just one of those hard knocks things to where I didn't have that piece of advice where it's like, no, you got to focus on sales.
Yeah.
But then I also learned to fall in love with sales as well.
That's right.
Sales drives everything.
It does.
And then eventually, if you can fall in love with the craft and the core competencies that you have, ultimately sales becomes just relationship building, and you learn about people and you figure out what are they having issues with, and then if you are competent enough with your skill set and you have the value to provide to people, like the sale will just happen, which is really neat to see as it kind of grows.
It is funny, sales is just listening to what their needs are and then delivering what they ask for. It's not complicated, right?
No, it's really not. And a lot of customer retention can be boiled down to did you set your expectations appropriately?
Agreed.
That is the biggest, one of the biggest eye-opening moments that I had was like, okay, thankfully we haven't lost that many clients throughout our lifetime, but the ones that we did is like, when you go back and look, it's like, okay, we didn't accurately portray what would actually be happening. Either their ideas were too big or too small or whatever. It's just, but anytime there's a mismatch there, you're in trouble.
That's right. So they say you can relay all problems back to miscommunication, right?
No, yeah. Yes.
Right? If you think about it, like you're talking about expectations, is not setting the right expectations, so you didn't communicate effectively on how it was going to lay out, or they misheard you or something like that. There was when I was in college, there was a professor, I think it was in communications, and it just stuck with me. One of the things they said was, in every conversation, there's four people. There's what you think you said and what you said, what the person thinks they heard and what they heard.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Oh, that's true.
And so, and they're like, if one of those people, one of those four people didn't hear it the same way, then you had miscommunication. So it's
wow. No, that's great. Yeah. No, that's because that's entirely true. Because you could say the right thing, but if they aren't interpreting it correctly,
that's right,
then ultimately it's a moot point. They're going to be, it's a miscommunication.
That's right. There's a guy that that we work with, and his big thing is vocabulary dictionary. We may have the same vocabulary, but if our dictionary is different.
Very true.
Yeah, just because even in cross industries, right? We may use the same word that have two totally different meanings, and then once again, you can boil down pretty much everything down to miscommunication.
Yeah,
all challenges.
Yes, well, and then too, because I'm sure you have this within your world as well, but in marketing and brand building and all those things that we do, there's certain terms. People just maybe they don't understand, or a lot of it you become a translator almost.
That's right.
That is a lot. Especially for me being on the client, a lot of our clients, they go to me and then I facilitate the plan to our staff to then, work out all these plans that we've laid in place with the client.
Right.
For me, a lot of what my job is taking what the client wants, translating it to our team.
That's exactly right.
Or taking our team's capabilities or limitations, translating it into a way that the client understands or doesn't understand.
That's right.
Or does understand, ideally. And I'm sure that happens a ton in your space as well.
Yeah. In the IT industry, I think that's one thing I really liked about it too, was that there's always been this, I think it's getting less and less, but there was an air of mystique about IT, like really what goes on in IT, and IT people in general. The stereotype is they're not great communicators and yada, yada. Mm-hmm. And so it's one of those where, I come from a business background, right? And it's being able to take those business concepts and really lift what we can consider lifting the veil on IT, that it's really not as complicated as people think it is. It's just a different language. And, if we can relate it and to their everyday, kind of concepts, then they kind of see what's going on, and then they feel more empowered that they have control over this thing that used to be such a mystery. Yes.
No, I think that's huge. I mean, because, if you can leave a conversation and then they feel more meaningfully informed, right?
That's
they
right.
come away with new information. They're like, oh, well, if that's all it is, and then but they don't necessarily know how to do it themselves, but
That's
they
right.
know what's going on now.
That's right.
I mean, it almost makes you more valuable.
Well,
I mean, it
really does, right?
It does, yes.
So you become a trusted advisor type, in that kind of position. And I mean, it's, we do this in our lives too. There's other parts of our business that we rely on, accountants or attorneys or something, somebody that, in those specialty areas that we wouldn't have. We don't have the in-depth knowledge that they do, and that's why we have those folks, right?
Yes.
And so that good advice is what we need. And, the more people are open and translate it to what we understand, the better we feel about that relationship with them.
Yes. No, I think that's why I was really excited to speak with you today, because we have that common thread in which we both have B2B service-based industry. Like we both have businesses that center on that.
Yeah.
And you just said something really cool that I want to key in on is partnering with your clients, being a trusted advisor, being the expert in the space.
That's right.
Something I had a huge revelation in how we operate as a firm whenever I realized that people weren't paying us for just like the utility or the sheer product. So like you get this many posts, you get this,
Yeah.
We check the list. No, they're paying for our expertise. They're paying for our creativity as a social media firm, an advertising firm. They're paying for our creativity, our expertise, our knowledge on like even with IT, everything's always changing. Our knowledge on the algorithms,
That's
our
right.
knowledge on the movings of the trends, our knowledge on how to more effectively reach the people you're trying to reach for the best price possible. That's what people are paying us for.
That's right.
And so, I realized I was like, okay, well then the more we learn, the better we are, the more effective we are, the more money we can make. And then that's whenever it was like overnight. I mean, as soon as we started looking at it that way, and we aren't just like, well, we'll give you 5 posts a week.
Right.
And it'll look like this, this, and this.
Right.
And then, because then if people view you as a utility,
That's right.
you can be beat because you can be beat on price.
That's right.
And once you start battling on price, you're at a downhill slope to the bottom, right?
Yeah. I think, marketing is a, tough industry, just kind of, similar to IT from the standpoint, there are lots of really small companies or, any company, basically they say they do the same thing, but the outcomes are completely different, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're using those overused terms, right?
No, yeah. And it comes down to ideally people are working with us because number one, we've given them enough information to where they feel empowered.
That's right.
They know. And then once they know, it shows that we know. You don't know something until you can teach it.
That's right.
And so ideally somebody's coming out of there saying, you know what, I completely understand what's going on. We understand the plan. And there's well, you just give us your passwords and we'll take care of the rest.
Right.
It's like, no, we're going to sit down. This is what we're doing. ABC. This is why we're doing it.
Right.
And then now you don't even have to worry about it. That's
right.
where like the real value comes in, is like,
That's
okay,
right.
we get all this. I understand what's going on and I don't even have to worry about it.
That's right.
And I'm sure you used to get that same exact thing. I could see it right here in my mind with IT.
Yeah, that's right. And what we say, is like, as being business focused, it's not about the blinky lights and, what kind of equipment it's going to be and blah, 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 blah. It's like, really, how do you operate? What are like the key metrics that you're trying to do? What are your growth plans, or where's the business going? And then if they just tell us those kind of different things, right, the IT, the technology falls out of it. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, and then we interpret it back to them of like, hey, if, these are your goals and your strategies, what you're doing, this is how we can help impact those different things to make those things work more effectively, efficiently, so you can hit those goals. Now that's fun. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes. No. Yeah.
Replacing a switch is not, I mean, we have to do it, but I mean, at the same time, it's not, it's not what we're there for, type thing.
Yeah, no, I think it's. I had been talking to one of our clients, and they had been having trouble with a campaign that they've been doing on their own.
Yeah,
it was paid social.
Yeah,
and they were doing a certain. They were trying to promote a certain service. They were like in the medical aesthetics space, and that service is. It's microneedling, and they put it, and it was for men's hair loss. So they microneedle your head, and then they put plasma on top of like the exposed abrasions, right? So they take plasma out of your arm, or take blood, shake it, get the plasma out, put it on your head after they microneedle it.
Wow.
It's like a gruesome procedure, right? I mean, it's an outpatient procedure.
Right.
Don't not go there, because like, it gets good results, right? But it's just not a pretty process, I guess.
Well, obviously there's some skill in doing that too, right?
100%. Yes. Yeah. It's it works, right? But marketing that was interesting because, she had said like, we're just not having success with this.
Right.
And with this program, I was like, okay, well, let me look at it. And we looked at it, and it was photos of like this bloody scalp, and then people smearing stuff on top of the bloody scalp. And it was kind of one of those, and I try to tell this to everybody that we work with, is like, we aren't selling the 10-hour layover. We aren't selling the lost luggage. We're selling the beach vacation.
That's right. Yeah. We
are selling, the full head of hair.
That's right. Yes.
And then everything else, all those layovers, lost packages, and everything else, that just is what happens on the way to the beach.
That's right.
And those are the necessary steps that need to be taken to get to the beach.
That's right.
And so replacing a switch is just a necessary action that must happen in order to live your dream of having all your data secure, not have to worry about anything IT related.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I found like if I find myself talking about features or actions more than I am vision, I'm probably not going to do well within the sale. That's something I've found. If we're talking about, if by the end we're talking about, well, this is what the end state will be, this is what we're looking at, this is what the vision, this is how everything can be revolutionized, we're in business.
That's right.
We're going to be able to move ahead.
Yeah, they're seeing that you're going to help them achieve their vision versus, you get into the weeds and the details, and it's just, I mean, can you do that stuff? But it's, it just becomes more transactional then. It's like, right.
And everybody can do it.
That's right.
Everybody kind of has same access to unless you have something proprietary.
That's right. And so, and then you don't feel like, I don't know, you just feel like hired gun, or whatever. And so, we really like to get involved with our customers as in this journey of them, developing their business, growing their business, whatever they're trying to achieve, right? Automating all these different things, and, being a part of that to see the outcomes at the end. That's where we get a lot of our fulfillment from.
How do you go about acquiring customers? What is your vision on that, and what is your kind of mindset?
So a lot of it has to do with, introductions. We have a couple people that are in sales on our team, but really as in our sales role is really being involved with the community, leveraging relationships that we have that, get us into different places that may have some IT challenges. It's really, we're not a fit for every company, and so we have to evaluate like which, if these companies are fit for our model of doing business. I mean, some companies want transactional, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's just business that we just don't go after. So that's, we do some marketing, social media, but, here in, this community, B2B, sometimes it's just who,
getting to know the right people, being in the community, doing a good job from that standpoint. And, word of mouth gets around pretty quick. Yes. No, yeah, that is the best salesman.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, the best salesman, or I think it was Charlie Munger said, your next 2 clients is your current client.
That's true.
And I was like, yeah, that's true. And then, with that mantra, then that's exponential growth right there. For every one that you get to, I mean, you're on the path. Yeah,
that's right.
Well, you said you came into TenHats off camera 2020.
That's right. September 2020.
What was that like? Were you all affected heavily with the pandemic, or?
So we were quote unquote an essential business being in IT.
Sure.
So, but at the same time, not many people are meeting. The company that I kind of walked into as well was struggling with some identity. Were they a data center? Were they a IT firm? So coming into that was, helping them really establish what they were going to be, right? And so that's kind of where the rebranding came into. That it's kind of relaunching of like who we are. I mean, we're an IT firm first. I mean, that's what we love to do. That's what we have all specialists doing. We happen to have a data center. That's one of the 10 hats is the data center, right? And so, we love the data center. I mean, that's one of the things that it's very unique in this market. There hasn't been a data center built in 20 years. So it's a core function of the infrastructure of our community, having a data center. But at the same time, it was like, that is just one facet of what we do. We really, like the IT side of it, where we're getting involved in helping, multi-locations connect, getting data. How do we get, and involved with them to make sure that they, the softwares that they use, that the infrastructure behind it is really invisible. You don't even think about it, right? Mm-hmm. It just happens. And so, but there's a lot of thought behind making that all invisible infrastructure.
That's pretty cool. I think that would have to be fun. I've found we've gotten into where we can help folks with software solutions on the marketing side.
Yes.
And automating it, and to where kind of one of those translation things where it's like, I want this to happen. The client says, I want this to happen, and this is what my ideal situation looks like. It's okay, well, this needs to happen on the back end.
That's right.
And then if you can get it to where it's working perfectly, it's a pretty neat.
That's exactly right.
Pretty neat situation.
Yeah.
Was there a shift that when you kind of took the helm that you wanted to take a specific direction? Do you have kind of a vision that you envision TenHats being?
Yeah. So basically, I mean, our vision, mission, or whatever you want to say, is really to be, kind of the dominant IT firm here locally that, kind of back to our roots of being a lot of Claris folks is, being seen as on the forefront of technology for East Tennessee. We really don't want to get outside of East Tennessee. We really want to stay here locally. We had a lot of people that we worked together that we had a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. The company got sold, everybody kind of spread from there. That's the owners wanted to do that. That was, more power to them. I mean, that's their decision. They did that, but there was a wantonness of the employees to still work together. So mm-hmm. We're doing that, and basically we just want to, from a IT standpoint, be here in East Tennessee, put our stake in the ground, This is what we want to do. We want to grow to, I guess we're about 33 employees right now. We want to get up to about 60, 80. That's kind of like where we've gone beyond that, and it kind of loses its small company feel.
Sure.
And so we know where that kind of looks. And then all different aspects of IT. So the IT industry is shifting, always shifting, right? ChatGPT is simple. I mean, like, we don't know where that's going to take us, but I think it's going to be as revolutionary as our smartphones, right? Or more, right? We don't understand where it's going. We just know that it's going someplace that we all can't really imagine, right? And so part of that is infrastructure is getting more stable. Applications are getting more stable. So how does the shift in the IT world work? So that's where we're kind of headed.
So with it getting more stable, you're saying then without that turbulence, there's not the need for the coming in to fix the things. Is that what you're kind of saying there?
Not as much anymore, right?
Yes.
So
what role do you fill then?
That's exactly right.
Gotcha.
And so part of it is integration of data, and how do we use data type thing. And so that's one of the areas that we think
cool. Because then you get to be kind of creative with it and then say, these are our core competencies. How can we use these things that we're really good at?
That's right.
And repurpose them.
That's right. And so what we've seen too is, like, in the past, we had certain level of engineers. We have a network engineer, not that you need to know what these are, system admins, and project engineers. There was like 3 types, right?
Sure.
Now we have dozens. We have cloud engineers, we have network engineers, we got security specialists, we got infrastructure specialists. I mean, it's just like, it keeps going on. Office 365. I mean, all these
AI engineers eventually, maybe.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I mean, it's one of those where it's gone from a few people, right, to you need specialists in all these different areas, and it'll continue to go that way as there's more software services starting up, and the more that there are, the more they need to be integrated with the other systems that they use. I mean, there's a software service for everything now. You know what I mean?
Wow, that's neat. That is really neat. How do you kind of channel your creativity into vision? You kind of get what I'm saying? How do you, like, for me, I have to make sure I'm very intentional about it and make sure I'm thinking about growth.
Yes.
Whatever. Do you have a system for that?
Yeah. And it's one of the things I try to do is really surround myself with people that don't always have the same opinion that I do. Right.
Yeah.
So my CTO, he'll say this too. He's like a pessimist and I'm an optimist. Right. And so we will, we'll sit there and start banging through ideas of, like, we should go here, we should do this. And then, we have this banter back and forth between the two of us to figure out and flesh out that idea. And something usually always comes better at it. And there's always been people like that I've always surrounded myself with, because, as humans, we lie to ourselves, right? I mean, how many, like you were talking about entrepreneurs, right? They all, if you never had a good idea, or how should I say this? Whenever you start a company, the amount of ideas from other people of what you should do. You know what I mean? It's just like, hey, I've got an idea and you should do this. I'm like, I'm doing my idea, right? Like, it's like,
go do your thing.
Yeah. Why don't you go do this? Well, I was talking to my mom and she really thinks it's a great idea. And I'm like, yeah. And so it's filtering through those and having those people around you. I mean, even as an entrepreneur, right? Those people will convince themselves that they have a really good idea, but can it be sold? Is it marketable? Maybe it is a good idea, but nobody's going to buy it, right? And so you have to have those people around you to really tell you the truth, in a safe spot, that you're not going to get angry with them, because they're looking out for your best interest too, right?
Yes. No, I think that is huge. I mean, you just flashed me back.
Oh yeah.
It's like, thankfully it doesn't happen that much anymore. I think once your own ideas start to plant, like, they
get some roots. Yes, that's right.
It's like, oh, okay, they're doing their thing.
Yeah.
But the worst is like, oh, well, have you thought about doing this?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah. And it's like, I can't remember who said it, but it clarified things for me, because I'm innately a people pleaser.
Right.
I think deep down I am. And I've gotten much better with that. But along with that, in the beginning of my journey, I very much cared what everybody thought.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you have to lose that very quickly, in the way of, like, if you have a vision and you have a path.
That's right.
Focus on that. And somebody said, it was like, don't worry yourself with the opinions of anybody aside from the people that, if it's coming from someone that you respect and aspire to emulate.
That's true.
If they aren't in that type of position, and you aren't, you don't aspire to achieve what they have achieved one day.
That's right.
It's probably not, it's just uninformed advice is all it is.
That's right.
They just don't know.
That's right.
And so, they aren't doing it at anything malicious.
No.
But, you do have to filter everything out.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, but yes, I remember that. And then, for one of the businesses that I was talking about, one of those kind of more automated businesses, I had the idea. I remember I was brushing my teeth with my daughter. I was like brushing, and I was like, I had been thinking, I was like, I have these connections. I have like this kind of, I know how this would work. I just need to get all this together. And then it like clicked when I was brushing my teeth, and I was like, oh, this is it. And then so I put my thing down, but Dalton does that for me a lot with stuff.
Yeah.
Over there behind the cameras. We sat down and we wrote it out, drew out the infrastructure of everything on a whiteboard.
That's right.
Like, this is the plan. This is what we're going to do. And we just shot holes in it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Shot hole.
Man, that's fun.
Yeah, it is. And then, what's really fun is whenever you shoot holes in it, and it's like, oh, that's a hole. And then you're like, oh wait, but then we can do this. And
that's right.
And then it becomes a real idea.
That's right.
And because of that, as we were rolling out and really brought it into fruition, a lot of the problems, like, we had already thought of. Mm-hmm. And so you're able to accelerate at a faster pace.
That's right.
Within 4 months, we were integrating.
That's good.
It was really neat. But there's a lot to be said about being able to objectively look at your ideas and have a team together that can look at it and be like, well, have you thought of this? Have you thought of this?
That's right.
Because you never know which one of those questions is going to derail the whole thing.
Right.
It only takes one.
That is. And mistakes can be disastrous too. So
yes.
Some you can recover from, other ones you just can't, right? And yes. So if you have everybody looking, somebody on your back, watching your back, mm-hmm. From your blind spots, then your chances of success are significantly higher.
Yes. Yeah. And it reduces your chance of making, or even just wasting time.
That's true.
I'm finding is the opportunity cost of lost time is tremendous.
Yeah. So it's one of the things, like kind of doing an MSP again, mm-hmm. And watching the whole Claris. Claris blazed a trail in a lot of different areas, and we made mistakes along the way. We had they were really good successes, mm-hmm. but it was one of those, like, Aaron and I will talk about more often than not that we know what not to do versus what to do, right?
Yes.
And so it's one of those, avoiding those landmines and, figuring out where to go versus where not to go, mm-hmm. has been a lot of fun, and we've gotten a lot more traction.
Just because the path, you can see the path a little bit clearer because, yeah.
You know how it kind of works, right? We have the feel of how it should work, and the culture, and, bringing the right people along. But there's, but always, business is always changing. So you're always adapting to mm-hmm. the change and whatever.
That's the fun of it, though, is the adaptation. And
I wouldn't do it.
Nimble.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like what we were talking about before, it was like being content, right? Mm-hmm. If you're never content, you're always looking at how to do things better, faster, mm-hmm. Bigger, whatever it is to get just a little bit better, Mm-hmm. One of our goals at TenHats is, as we say, is like, we want we want to get to the point where our customers never call us with an issue, right? Mm-hmm. So is that achievable? No, it's not. But the closer that we get to it, the more impact, the better success they have and the better success that we have. And so we're always striving for this, maybe something that's unattainable, but if we can get just a little bit closer, everybody is, in a better place.
Yeah, no, I think that's cool. And I think that shows your unique position within the space, because you all take a proactive approach.
Absolutely.
Into preventing problems before they happen.
Yeah,
I think that's you, because in a weird way, whenever you say, I don't want my clients to call, in a weird way, I'm sure there are some firms out there, and I'm not very well versed in the IT firm space.
Right.
But that want you to call, because then you're relying on them.
That's right.
And so I'm sure that is very intentional on your end to
yeah, it's one of those, going back to, being client focused, business focused, right? The least amount of downtime they have. What's funny is, back in the day, what we found was like we were getting pretty good at it, and people were like, well, we don't need you because it works all the time.
Yeah.
And so we've added positions over time of helping them with a more consulting role of like where they're going. And then we kind of review a little bit of like where we've been in the past, just to keep them informed on, the value that we're bringing.
Yes. Well, I think that goes back to that communication that we talked about before.
Absolutely.
Because if you can come in and sell them that, hey, one of our KPIs is like how few calls you have as opposed to how many calls you have.
That's right.
So like if we can get you under 5 calls or 1 call a quarter.
That's right.
Like that is success for us.
That's right.
And so it goes back to that framing and that communication.
Yeah.
And it also plays into like, if you're viewed as the expert and the true power, like, what you're doing, and they don't see you as a utility, then that, if they see you as a utility, they're like, we can save money here because nothing's going down.
That's right. Strategic partner. I had a guy, I was talking to you last week, and he was talking about, he was being interviewed for being a CIO of a very large business. And they asked him, the person that was interviewing him, they were interviewing several different people, and they're like, why should I hire you? And he goes, hey, if you want somebody that's business focused and you're a strategic partner, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
If you want somebody to run it like a utility and be on a budget, go hire what you had before.
Yeah.
And so, and there's kind of 2 different philosophies in IT from that standpoint. Is it utility based? Mm-hmm. Is it techie? Or is it business focused? Like we're really looking at the economics of what's going on and how does that impact and how does it help the business drive forward? And I just think that latter, that being a strategic partner and business focus, is just more fun. It's just like.
Well, and then you can see, because we have a very it is a very similar outlook here.
That's right.
So like, the cool part is because if you partner with them as they grow, you get to be part of that journey, and you're looking back a year later, you're like, wow, look at how far we like.
That's right.
Believe that, or like your relationship can totally evolve, and you say, now we've discovered a way to make money that we didn't even know.
That's right.
Or all these different things, and it's such a cool opportunity to do that with people.
I know, and marketing. I think marketing and IT have quite a bit of similarities. It's one of those where. When it's not working, everybody kind of knows, but they don't know why, right?
Yeah.
And then when it's working, it's kind of like, man, this is working, and this feels pretty good, And so it's but it's hard to like get over those humps from the standpoint of like, no, it should look like this.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, there is that there's a similar mystique to where they're like,
yeah, I agree.
They know that they kind of need it.
That's right.
They have no idea what it means. They have no real idea. With social media, they're probably a little bit more familiar because they have like personal stuff.
That's right.
But as far as like business and growing and all that stuff, they know that they need it, but they have no idea what they need.
Right.
Which is kind of a weird situation.
Right. And how you put an ROI on it and all these different things. Sometimes it's, it's for those who get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, and trying to make that journey for some other ones, they'll get there usually. But at the same time, it can be a challenge.
Yes. And I've found a lot of times if they don't get it, it's kind of they just don't get it.
That's right.
And it's like, they're going to be the type that's like calling you, hounding you, whatever, or, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a tough situation. But then that goes back to communication maybe too. So
Sure. That's right.
Yeah. It's probably not all on the client either.
We're full circle, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But no, I think that's really neat. You did mention something. So what is the difference between like MSP and IT firm, and what is...
So a managed service provider, and so this is where vocabulary dictionary, like the managed service provider and IT firm. So we're struggling with terms in our industry right now. So for the longest time, a managed service provider was somebody that really managed the whole infrastructure, was proactive, was doing a lot of things that we are doing. Well, there's been bleed over from people that are like a break fix shop that are starting to do some components of it, but they don't really fully implement the proactiveness. Does that make sense?
Okay. So a maintenance service provider is kind of like an on-call type deal?
So it's just this is good. I mean, this is what we're actually trying to figure out what the next term.
Oh, so it's kind of not even defined yet.
That's right.
Like the evolution of what you are, or
right.
So you're striving to be.
Right. So the managed service providers has become an overused term. Anybody that does any type of proactive maintenance, even if it's very minimal, calls themselves a managed service provider. So it's one of those, how do you separate yourself? Marketing has the same issue, frankly, from the standpoint of really unsophisticated players are saying that they do the same thing as the
big players, or
the big players, right? And so how do you, in terms, differentiate yourself with the vocabulary so that you can say, no, I mean, it's like there is a difference between our services.
But yes, no, I know exactly what you're saying now. Yes. Yeah. So it's a lot of people who don't have the full arsenal of tools to necessarily what you would call an MSP are calling themselves MSP.
Right. So, I mean, it's like the word technology, right? And so think about all the companies that use the word technology.
Yeah.
They could be in manufacturing, doing a computerized automation something, or they could be a copier company, right? Or they could be an IT firm, or they could be some other like really cool, digital device type thing that they're a technology.
Yeah.
So when you hear technology, it's like,
it's a wide spectrum.
It's a wide spectrum, right? It's just such a vague term now. It's kind of one of the, like, so our former name was SH Data Tech, and I'm like, data and tech are so widely used that nobody knows what it really means. Well, then in that case, I mean, shoot, yeah, TenHats makes a lot more sense because, from a branding perspective, that's right.
You're able to say, we're able to wear multiple hats for, I think that's a smart move on the branding side. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. So now, are you guys waiting to see if anything takes root in the industry, or are you going to proactively kind of like start calling your designation something?
Yeah, it's a good question. No, we probably won't wait. So, we're just kind of knocking around some terms just to see what it would be. And that's kind of our culture of trying to push the envelope of being really innovative. I think that, from going back to the Claris days, I mean, that's why Claris was so far ahead of everybody else, is because we didn't wait on the industry. We push forward.
Yeah.
And it's, we actually look at the industry too and try to see where are everybody else, where's the mass going? Let's take a right turn right here. And so we're going against the grain a little bit. So that's where I spend a lot of my time, is really thinking about what's the next evolution and what we're going to do.
That's the fun part.
It is
like
fun.
Once you can kind of start, everything else, like I said, is, you're just kind of working in the business, or you're working in the business.
Yeah.
Now you get to work on the business.
Yes, that's exactly right. So it was funny. I was like trying to work on a presentation on something, for the future. And over the weekend, and my wife was like starting to talk to me. I'm like, no, don't talk to me. And I'm like, look like I'm spaced out. And I'm really, you're like deep in thought.
Yes.
Right. And so you're just in this place of like trying to muddle through. And I'm like, this is work. You know what I mean? And I'm like going, this is interesting, that this is work. Because I've for so long I've executed, right? So it's just about.
You get your directive.
Yeah.
Complete it.
That's right.
And we're on. And that's work.
That's right.
But now it's like, all right, well, if we do this, then that would happen, and this would happen. And it's like, I'm working right now. That's what's sweet.
That is sweet, yes.
No, because, okay, I told my sister this, because you ever watch Mad Men?
And I haven't. I've like, yeah.
It's kind of a nerdy, like, okay, so I always tell people, like, if everything failed today and all these, media and everything, I'm very passionate about that, but really I enjoy being an entrepreneur and providing services to people.
Right.
If the advertising and media and brand building, all that went away, I would just figure out something else to value and sell it, right?
That's right.
So ultimately I want to be an entrepreneur first. So I was watching Mad Men, which is about like this ad agency in the 50s.
That's right.
Really cool. And I remember he was like in the pilot episode that opens up, and he's like in this bar, and he's like just really struggling to like figure out a campaign idea for like their biggest client,
right?
Whatever, just really struggling. And I remember thinking, and then finally, like he goes into the meeting and just kills it and whatever, does a great job. And I was sitting there thinking, when I first watched it in college, I was like, that would be so cool. And I was like, they're all wearing suits, they dress nice. Yeah. I was like, whatever business I end up doing, I want to be paid for being creative, and I want to be able to wear a suit if I want to. I don't want to always have to wear a suit, but if I want to wear a suit, it's not going to be out of place.
That's right. That's good.
I kind of had an idea of like the certain level of professionalism that would go into that.
Absolutely.
But all that to say is, like, I had a moment to where it was a really neat realization. I was sitting there and I was thinking, I was like trying to think of how we can reach a specific audience with a certain campaign, and one of our clients, and I was like, I just beating my head against the wall, just thinking, and I was like, I'm having a Mad Men moment. And I was like,
that's awesome.
I was like, and I was sitting there, and it was like the same problem. He's like, I can't think of how,
I know.
Just none of these ideas are clicking for me. And I was like, but then I was telling my sister, because she was there helping with, and I was like, instead of being in like a smoky bar with like, a woman coming up to me trying to, hit on me because I'm an attractive ad man.
Right.
Like, I've got my two kids like all over me.
That's exactly.
Jumping on me, like,
that's
wrestling
funny.
all over me. I was like, it's different than what I imagined, but it's just as awesome.
You're right. That's exactly right. Yeah. Wouldn't trade it for the other.
Yes. And so like that is whenever, and to be able to realize, like, if we do it correctly, to wake up every day and be like, if I can do my job correctly, in a year from now, we can be in a totally different stratosphere, or we can achieve new heights.
That's right.
That's what's really, really, I think, freeing being an entrepreneur. We were talking about that, about the double-edged sword of like being an entrepreneur. You're never complacent.
Yes.
But the other, that's you're always thinking about what's next. So you can never really live in the moment.
Right.
But the other side of it is we enjoy the uncertainty of the future in a good way.
That's right.
If we apply ourselves, nobody's holding us back.
That's right. We can be creative. We can kind of, make our own future. We just have to be, there's thought of how to lead the organization correctly. I
had to really lean into that. I think was an evolution that I had to personally have, was realizing how important it is to set aside time to think.
I was gonna bring that up too.
I mean, it is. I mean, I call it my great awakening. Like, I literally woke up, it was just randomly, and I was like, it's so hard with social media and stuff.
That's right.
I found myself, and it was all good stuff that I was consuming. I've always been pretty good about like mandating what I watch. I don't watch a lot of stuff that's not helpful or whatever.
Right.
But I had what I called the twitch, where if my mind wasn't immediately occupied with something, I'm on it.
Right. Yep.
And it leaves you no time to think.
That's right.
It's so important, and I always tell people.
Yeah, it is. I mean, basically slow down, really think, and just, really just kind of let your mind wander.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And taking time to do that is it is hard. But if you don't, and I think most of our society doesn't do it as much as they should. Right.
I think they kind of get into that. They're just used to being distracted all the time.
Yeah.
And so just the distraction is their state of normalcy.
That's right.
That's just that's their normal default mode.
Right. And so it's, and I think they've put guilt on us as a society that it should be filling your time with consuming something. Right. And so it's like going back to, Sunday when I'm thinking about this, and I was just like going, more of it is like, this is work. I mean, I literally have to carve out time to just think. And, people, it may not look like work, but it really is trying to drive your company forward, or, any initiative that you have forward, takes a lot of thought and a lot of, planning. And, I've gotten into the habit of going into large meetings or something like that, or planning like that, write it down, going back and editing again and editing again, to continue those thought processes to make sure that I don't lose them.
Yes.
Right.
Oh yeah.
With all the different activities that we have.
Yes.
Consumer.
No, I mean, shoot, look at.
Yeah, that's right.
I have to have something just to get it, because it'll hit you randomly.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And it's like when you stop thinking about it consciously, is like your subconscious kind of chewing on it.
That's right.
But you need your conscious mind to direct all right, this is what we're going to be thinking about.
Yes.
It needs to be present in my mind.
Right.
And then it seems like I'll think about it. And then like I'll be driving or something and I'll kind of turn my mind off a second or not turn it off, but let it wander. And then it's like, there it is.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And then I'm like trying to write something in my notebook.
That's exactly right. That's good. And so, I've also found like inspiration too, from the standpoint of doing like a diversity of different things, like, reading about just random stuff, right? Just learning about it.
Yes.
From who knows, I had a friend that bought an airplane many years ago. And so I got all into like just reading about airplanes. And it was fine. It was funny how the aviation industry translated into some other part of your life. Yes. And then you're like going, wait a minute, what they did to solve this problem over here? I wonder if it would, something similar would fit in this problem that I have right now. Right. And it was it's just putting those disparate ideas together to form new thoughts is, I don't know, that I get the biggest kick out of that, and so it drives me down all these weird paths sometimes that, just, I don't know, I find something fascinating about it. And I'm like, I learn, it may be a month, it may be a quarter, it may be a year that I spend on just kind of learning this new aspect and how do I apply in different parts of my life.
It's so cool that you said that, because I do the same thing. And one specific example was, I've always been really interested for some reason, is super high-end kitchens.
Oh, interesting.
Not like in homes, but like Michelin-starred restaurants.
Oh, wow.
And I think I've really just started thinking about it, and I was kind of studying it, watching documentaries. And I think what I really found interesting about it was the way that they were able to standardize super high level, super creative output.
Oh yeah, no, that is interesting.
And so it's like on a level that's repeatable.
That's right.
Very quickly and efficiently, but it's so standardized that they can create a super unique, dish.
Right.
And it's super creative and super complex.
Dozens of times a night.
And it's a team of people. How does that work? And then I started to relate it to what we do. Mm-hmm. I mean, because we have to do that. Except for each client, we have a different dish.
Yes.
And so, what I really started looking at there was like, how do they standardize their processes? How do they communicate? Who, is... you have your head chef. The head chef is there at the window, sampling everything as it goes out, make sure everything's good, and then he disseminates things and make sure everything's running on time. And then you have your, the hierarchy of the kitchen. And it's like, well, one thing I learned was everybody in those kitchens are highly vetted, they're highly passionate, and then they're extremely competitive to get a job there. And so everybody there feels like lucky and really enthusiastic, which
That's right.
is really key because they're willing to pay attention to the details. But yeah, it's the same exact concept.
Yeah, the whole hospitality industry, the high-end hospitality industry is just fascinating because, I mean, they make this consistently repeatable process, but they make it feel unique, right?
100%.
You know, and making that personal connection with their client, and making it, you know, and it's and they do it at such a high level, you know, all the time.
I think another thing that I looked at that still fascinates me, and so does restaurants still, but is luxury goods and brand, like, and which kind of makes a little bit more sense, like branding and stuff.
Yeah.
But it kind of goes back to IT for what we do or whatever. Is they're taking the same things that you can buy somewhere else and charging immaculate amounts of money for it.
That's true.
I mean, yes, the quality is better, but it's not that much better for the exponential rise in cost that comes along with
That's true.
a crazy luxury brand.
That's true.
So what are they doing in order to receive that kind of compensation for the same good? How are they building the brand? Like, what is the customer feeling when they go in?
Oh yeah.
And just kind of
It's about that about the experience and stuff like that. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I got into this whole thing on social economics for a while.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Just like people making decisions, like from that standpoint of why do they think that this certain things have more value than and others, and how do they relate those two different things? And from a marketing standpoint, it's fascinating.
No, yeah, because I love that kind of stuff because I studied finance in school.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, very cool. You went to Haslam though too, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
It was Glocker. It was Glocker.
Oh, back in the day.
Yeah, I'm old. Yeah,
that's older. My dad went there. That's what it was. Yeah,
yeah.
But yeah, that's studying that really. I also really found it fascinating, which is really appropriate because we now are working with a bank, but banking is another thing. Like, how does money work? How does money as a tool? How does it work? And how do you leverage it? And I mean, that kind of stuff is really neat too. But all those things, I think, go in together. The fact that we have varied interests like that makes us better entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
I mean, because like you said, it allows you to spot opportunities or to better understand your customer.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because we're, as an entrepreneur, I think we're blazing trails, right? We're trying to figure out something to do something a little bit better, different, evolve into this next realm. And, I say this a lot. So one of the company that I owned was a vendor registry, and it was like all the things that we did, and we disrupted that market. All had been done in the past. We just packaged them in a different way. Yes. Right?
No. Yeah.
And so it's like, it's taking those different, and, maybe we did a few unique things, but really no, it was really just repackaging it and then they consumed it in a different way.
Yeah.
And so I think, learning about all these different things does help us meld or morph our companies into to this next evolution or next revolution of what they do.
No, well, if anything, it just allows you to, at the very, very least, allows you to maybe connect with somebody who also finds interest in that too.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I had if I have a superpower, right, it's really recruiting.
Oh yeah.
And so it's one of those where the team around me, like I've said this before, it's like, I go through my life and there's people that, God or, puts in front of me or whatnot. And then you build a relationship with them and you find these unique skill sets that,
that just fit perfectly.
That's exactly right. And so, TenHats is a collection of that from all different areas of my life and different places I've worked and all this other stuff. And I've just carried these people along with me to build this really incredible team, of these unique skill sets and them functioning together
It's pretty cool.
It's fun. And so, it's and then also going out to recruit and figuring out who will fit in the company, where it's going to kind of go. And then, what I like from the recruiting standpoint is like you bring them in, let them do their thing, and like amazing stuff happens all the way around them by them just being them.
Yes. No, well, that's Ryan and I talked about that.
Yeah.
And it's
He's a big believer in that. Yeah.
Yeah. If you can hire the right people, you don't have to micromanage anybody.
No.
And you don't want to.
No, I don't want to. Yes.
If you hire the right people, you can trust them and trust their.
Absolutely.
And that, it's the U.S. military kind of concept of pushing it down to the lowest level, pushing the decision making down to the lowest level.
Yes, right.
And it keeps you agile. It keeps, the people who have the most information about the situation are the ones who make the decision.
Yeah.
Which I think is huge. When did you realize that you were able to do that? Or are you just kind of looking back now on?
I think there's always a semblance of it. And I think I've had some pretty good mentors along the way of just, really instilling that. When I started the company of Vendor Registry too, a lot of it hit home. From the standpoint of, I had to rely on, I couldn't think of everything and I couldn't do everything.
Yeah.
Right. Even the Claris days too, I think back from there, there were some really good leaders along the way, men and women that mentored me. But I think, as an entrepreneur, letting go is hard.
Yes. It's your baby.
Right. It is your baby. And, but allowing other people to shine, and you just, I think the biggest breakthrough is when you figure out that you can tell somebody, hey, I need you to get me here. Now, the way that they get you there may not be how you would do it, but if they get you the result, doesn't matter.
That's big. No, that is, I'm going to, yeah.
Right.
How do you convince people to come on board? Because, if they have a unique skill set and they're highly valuable, do you ever have trouble with, trying to coax people on to come on board? Or
always, right, from that standpoint. But I think also if you put together a good team, they're not following me per se.
They want to be part of the team.
They want to be part of the team because there's a lot of other really smart people around them that are just as ambitious as they are. And they can see how they fit into the puzzle instead of, if the company's about me, I've failed. Right. If it's about the team and them actually working together and it's accomplishing something together and I'm a piece of that, that's how that's what makes a company valuation way more valuable. Yeah, it is.
It's a system.
It's a system, right? And we all play our parts. We all play our roles. You get the best players on each part of that. Just because, they're a star running back, you don't make them the quarterback the next season, right?
That's true. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. You just work at letting him be a better running back. Yeah.
That's
him the ball.
That's exactly right. And I think also fitting to people for, their skill sets, right? So it's like one of the guys that works for us is Jay. He's our service delivery manager, and he worked with me in the past. And I was like, hey Jay, when we're looking for somebody, we've got to like them. Right?
Yeah.
They've got to fit on the team, a personality. They have to fit in our culture, and we have to have a role for them. Can they fill the role? So basically, it's those are kind of two rules that we have. It's we got to like them, and they have to fill the role we need. We can't just shove people in roles that don't fit them.
So if they were somebody who was just really good at network maintenance or something like that, but you're already full on network engineers.
We just,
can't do it right now.
Yeah, we can't do it right now. We have a virtual bench. We're not going to put the company in jeopardy. We have a philosophy that's the company first. That's the whole, right? If the company's solid, then everybody's
taken care of. Yeah,
everybody's taken care of. And then we're employee focused next. And we feel like if we take care of the company and then we take care of our employees, guess what they're going to do? Then they're really going to take care of our customers.
Yeah.
Right. So, you could be customer focused and, treat your employees bad. Then you have nothing, right? But if the employees have a great place to come to work and they want to work there, they believe in the mission, they're going to filter. That's going to filter down to those customers, and they're going to be ecstatic with the service that they get.
I think that's a great way to go about it, especially in like a service-based industry.
Yeah.
Reminds me of Chick-fil-A, honestly.
True.
You know, the people at Chick-fil-A, they're getting paid more. Their managerial system is great. You know,
that's right.
They take care of everybody. You never see anybody doing anything outside of their lane. You know, I mean,
that's right.
I know people.
They seem to be smiling all the time. They seem to be, enjoying what they're doing.
And it translates to the customer.
It does. I mean, you just feel it when you get served by them, right?
Mm-hmm. How important is it? How is that split up? So technical ability versus like personality and fitting with the team. So say there is a position open and somebody does fit that need, but maybe they aren't to the level that you need them to be. Do you ever say, all right, it's okay, we'll teach you whenever you get here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Culture first.
Culture first.
Right.
Okay.
And so if they have to have some basic skills.
Sure.
Right.
Yes.
But we've always had a culture of teaching.
Mm.
So even our most senior network engineers talk about their mentors when they were younger that brought them up. Mm-hmm. And so they have this really culture of teaching our younger staff, the technical skills that they need, and then helping them decide, like as they grow in their skill set, what are the specialties that they want to go into. Mm. So what's funny is like several of the people that we've 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of them started with us as interns at Claris.
Oh, wow.
And now, they're over at TenHats, as some of our most senior people, and so they went up through that, kind of a culture and experience of really teaching the people behind you, right? Mm. And so they're doing the same thing, and it makes it a fun working environment for them.
That is neat. Wow. Was that something that comes organically, or how much do you have to push that?
I don't have to push it at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And it's just innate in our culture.
But I guess if you hire the right people, you can kind of tell if they're going to be the type of person to information or.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, like we have a lot of A players. Mm-hmm. And, B's and C's just don't make it, because there's just a high level of productivity. These guys are, men and women they're just at the top of their game. They always want to do better. And they're just always wanting to teach the other people. If somebody wants to be complacent, they typically just kind of filter out.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't even have to come down and end it.
No.
Yeah, that's something that I know as somebody kind of more on the front end of the journey.
Yeah.
Really trying to be mindful about is building a culture that really will be able to handle the type of growth and success that, like we said, we've envisioned.
Yeah.
Are they going to be the type of people that when we make it and when we achieve these goals that we've laid out, are they going to be the type of people that are going to be able to perform at that level with people underneath them as well?
That's true.
Because ideally you're bringing in people and they can manage those people or whatever. But I think that's something that I'm going to have to be very mindful about as we continue to grow.
Yeah. So one of the things, have you ever heard of Derek Sivers?
Yes.
Yes. Have you ever seen his whole thing on leadership, by the dancing guy on the...
He's not the one who has like the quiz or whatever, right? With the personalities?
No, I don't think so.
Then I do not know. Sorry.
He had a company called CD Baby.
Okay.
And so they would mail out CDs. And so look him up, Sivers, Derek Sivers.
Let's see.
And he's been around for a long time. And probably not super well known, but he had this thing where there was a shirtless dancing guy.
Okay.
And basically he's at this outdoor concert festival, and he talks about leadership using this shirtless dancing guy. And so what it was like, hey, and I guess it's about a minute and a half. Uh-huh. And he's like, hey, it's how to create a movement, right? So the leader is sitting there dancing by himself. And then there's the what he calls the first followers. it's like a leader that has no followers. It's just on a walk by themselves, right? Right.
Crazy person.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so I think the culture of a company is in those first followers. The first followers are the ones that really push the momentum and the culture and what they're doing. It's not the leader. It's getting somebody to believe in the cause and them taking that culture and distilling it down.
No, I think that's great. I think it's another point that Ryan and I talked about being able, if you get the right people and they've bought in completely, you don't have to be the one that holds the standard as much.
No, that's right.
There's like a unspoken just culture. I mean, it's a culture.
That's right.
That promotes acting a certain way, performing a certain way.
That's right.
And then, like you said, they filter themselves out.
That's right.
How important is it? How long do you normally give to see if somebody's going to be a right fit or not? How much leeway?
That's a good question. We haven't had that many misses. We usually find out within 90 days.
Oh, yeah.
And most of the people that we've recruited have come through some association of, a reference or something like that. And then we put them through a pretty rigorous interview process. From the technical side of it, we actually do a technical interview. And we get ghosted like crazy when we say there's going to be a technical interview.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's really cool. So you're doing a lot of vetting just up front.
Yep.
Multiple, seeing their dedication.
Absolutely. And so we do multiple interviews. We try to do them quickly because the time that we're in. But we have multiple people interview them, and so
you get a varied.
Yes. And it's, even if they're going to be a technical person, our administrative staff, like Jen and her department, accounting, like an accounting person could be in there. All we're looking for is culture and fit and stuff like that. So we get a diversity of input from it. And, if somebody really says no, that's a no.
Wow. So you need a almost unanimous decision by all the sections.
That's right.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, because they're going to have to work with all those people.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And it's, just all of our different perspectives of like what we've grown up in and done bring, value to us that we just don't, we all see things a little bit differently.
Well, and then, I'm sure different sections of the company are going to interact with that potential employee differently, or whenever they become an employee, they're going to be, whether that person can go and get their paycheck from them is going to be different from somebody who's expecting to be accountable for their actual actions at work. Yeah. That's
right. Even our reviews processes now, it's not just the manager and the employee. So when we review somebody, it's a group, our whole leadership team reviews that individual, because they may if they report to me directly, they may treat me a little bit differently than they do other folks in the company. And so we want to get a well-rounded view of that person, to help them grow in, different areas, and just to see that we're making sure that we're not being blinded. And
I think that's great. Or if they have a really good relationship with somebody.
That's exactly right.
That's not their buddy or whatever.
Right. And I might, they may just click with the person that they report to, and they just, kind of same personality type or whatnot. And then, but everybody else is like, oh man, they can be difficult in these different areas. I'm like, I never saw that.
That's true. Wow. Yeah. So you've systemized all this.
Yeah, we try to systemize everything.
How important is that? I'm sure it's
hugely. It's kind of like, you're going back to the fine dining, right? They systemize everything.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And so they have high expectations on what to do. If you have high expectations and you systematize everything and you give clear definitions, then everybody knows what their expectations should be, right? And so then it's not a big surprise if you don't live up to your expectations. And then, then there's a lot of peer pressure if you don't. You're not pulling your own weight, right?
That's true. And it's there for everybody to see. Everybody has the same standards.
That's right.
And it's objective.
That's right.
Yeah. No, I think that's something that I think I'm really hoping that people that follow the interviews that we do and the podcasts that we do is how important systems are to a business.
Yeah, they are. You can't scale without them.
Yeah. And I think, you could probably provide some services, like you said, at a smaller level.
Yeah. It never gets bigger than the entrepreneur because everything's in their head. If they're the bottleneck, it can only go to as big as they can handle.
I have seen that a lot.
Yeah. And and that's what I, kind of going back, I'm like, I don't want this to be about me. Right.
No. Yeah. I'm very much driven by legacy. So,
yeah.
I want my grandkids to look back and say, this is where the family tree changed.
That's right. Yeah. I agree.
This is where everything changed. And ideally, we're building systems now into which, eventually, I don't know if the kids are going to take over a company or whatever,
right.
but if they wanted to, ideally we have it systemized to where,
right.
Everybody knows and
there's
a role to play, and it's not just all dependent, it's not like one of the old, not like you're dependent on a good or bad king being born randomly.
That's right. That's right.
Because I think that's what builds legacies or builds dynasties is a systemization.
That's right. Agreed.
That's all it is a system of excellence that is carried from one person or one group of people to another.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think that's huge. That's huge. Do you have any kind of just advice? It could be specific, it could be broad for young entrepreneurs or not even young.
Yeah. Entrepreneurs in general. Man, that's a really good question.
It's pretty broad too. So
yeah, it is. Yeah. I think, man, that's a really good question. Partners are important, I think. They can be challenging, but they're also somebody watching your back. And it could be a key employee, but really bringing them along to watch your back. If you're an optimist, you need a pessimist. And I've had that all the way through, and solutions come out a lot better. Grace. I was told this a long time ago. It's like, we're creatures that make a lot of mistakes, right? So why are you surprised when somebody makes a mistake?
That's true. Yeah.
And so it's one of those of being able to live through those mistakes and basically, hey, let's own them, let's fix them, let's never do them again. Right.
No. Yes.
And so I think that's when you're developing leaders around you for doing that, let them fail. I'm not saying like if they do fail, that's a leadership learning opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
Yes, to bring them along. Because typically we're all there at one place at one time. So I don't know. That's maybe a couple.
No, I like it. No, That's perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for.
Good.
Just threw it out of nowhere, but you got it.
Yeah, that's right.
No, yeah. Well, Brian, I really appreciate it. This has been really cool.
This has been fun.
Yes. Yeah. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah.
Because I think there's even more stuff that I would like to get into that I don't want to keep you too long, but
no, this is great.
I really appreciate your time. I appreciate what you're doing for our community and
you too.
And building a business that serves people well. And I think it's an extremely important area of technology to reintroduce the broad term. And I just really appreciate your time and your insight.
That's great. Thank you for thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.